the recapitalization exercise has ended in Nigeria. 31st of July was the deadline from the Insurance Commission, that's NICOM. And they've disclosed that 43 insurance and reinsurance companies have fully complied with that new minimum capital requirement. So it's landmark overhaul expected to transform the insurance capacity to finance economic growth and protect policy holders and mobilize long-term investment for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's goal for $1 trillion nominal GDP economy in Nigeria. And this, of course, concludes this 12-month exercise. And it's interesting, our Rise business analyst Chika Mbonu was with us after COVID, when a lot of buildings were destroyed. And he made the strong point about the need for insurance in Nigeria. So we're glad to have Chika Mbonu with us, our Rise business analyst. Good morning, sir. Thanks for joining us.
How are you today?
Good to be here. Good to see you as well. That COVID, remember that COVID transaction, that conversation after the destruction?
I remember. I mean, we've spoken so much about insurance.
Yeah.
And we said in some other climes, some other financial systems, that the insurance groups actually
bigger than
banks, they own banks.
Yeah.
But Nigeria is very totally poor cousin, poor second, not even second or third, maybe 5 cousins removed from the banking system. And you tend to wonder why. Depending on where you look at, they tell you the insurance penetration in Nigeria remains one of the lowest in Africa. Generally estimated at below 1% of the GDP.
Sub 1.
Is GDP. Yeah. And the reasons go far beyond the income levels as is the issue. They involve a lot of issues about trust, awareness, product design, distribution. You know, let's even look at the trust. Nigerians don't trust insurance companies. And you know that I said it, that time I said it in the air clearly. And so many people believe that they collect premiums and don't pay claims. You know, a lot of people say they find an excuse not to pay. Yeah. And the claim process is so stressful. You know, one of the things, Ruth, is you're going to know is that the premiums most times are paid or asked for or collected at times of happiness. You know, you buy a new car, you want to insure it, so they pay a premium. You build a new house, you do that also. Now, those are good, happy moments. But the claims moments are times of sadness.
You're right.
You know, that somebody's husband has died. He wants to claim the death benefits of life insurance. The car has an accident. Or the factory has burnt. So those are the times that Nigerians see the wickedness of some of these insurance people. And that's when they tell you, have you looked at paragraph 5, appendix 6, line 7, you know, this, and then you're looking at microscope to try and read some of those things, you know. So people don't trust insurance, you know. So it's who has a series of unpaid fire claims may prefer to pray against fire. Yeah. So because of a lot of Nigerians do it's on my portion insurance. You know, that's what God Day insurance. You know, that's what that is. So they also low financial literacy. You know, many Nigerians see, despite the lack of trust, many don't understand what insurance is about, how it works, why it's necessary. You know, people would rather spend 50,000 naira on a new phone, but they say to spend a fraction of it insurance. I remember one time I bought a camera for my daughter abroad, and so leaving the shop, they said, just pay additional 3 or 4 pounds on this thing, and you get like me. And that, of course, disposable income is also an issue, which is you know, man never chop. The insurance,
you want to give money to buy insurance.
You know, we never pay school fees and other things and rent. The insurance will go do. You know, and I thought about culture and religious beliefs. God will protect us. Nothing bad will happen. Speaking about insurance, attracts misfortune for a lot of people. I don't talk about it. So a lot of people rely on family and, you know, community support. You know, and of course, weak enforcement is another issue because there's about 5 listed mandatory insurances, like third-party motor, buildings under construction, public buildings, employer liability, health and group life. They are actually mandatory. But, you know, people use, a lot of motorists use a fake insurance and photocopy the last one. Of course, poor customer service, which is where the industry. You remember that day, I think I had a discussion with the president of the Nigerian Insurance Institute on air, and I challenged him and said, the industry needs to do a lot to win the hopes of Nigerians. But the initiative of the NICOM is very, very salutary, because we believe that if insurance companies are more recapitalized, it reduced those who just go and collect premium
Right.
and never pay claims. Maybe a lot more professionalism will come into play. And the hike in the capital has been much. Life insurance will move from 2 billion to 10 billion. General insurance from 3 billion to 15 billion. And then composite, that's those who do live and non-live, move from 5 billion to 25 billion. And reinsurance was 10 to... So this is massive. One of the biggest capital increases the sector has ever seen.
Yeah.
And we believe that it will reduce... eliminate those who are not very serious, those who can just come to collect premium. Of course, just like we did for the banking consolidation. And that's why I'm doing this. We're trying to talk about this because the insurance companies are a very important part of the financial system.
Yeah.
Very important financial system. It's not just about the accident. It's also because of the fact that, look at a lot of bank security rests on insurance. Mortgages rest on insurance, cars rest on insurance. And they were given options of raising fresh capital just for the banks and the other ones. And this ended on 31st July. NICOM has said they're not extending it. And for the 3 popular insurance companies have been cleared. We had that 10 not cleared, but the 8 of them are in process of, just like they do for the banks.
The banks, we had like 3 remaining after the recap.
Yes, and they're working on that, Insurance is not just about accidents, as I said earlier on. It supports mortgages in aviation, oil and gas. In aviation, you can't fly without your insurance.
Yeah.
A lot of us, oil and gas, you cannot do a lot of things without insurance. So insurance are a very important part of the economic system. Without insurance, strong insurance, the banks are also exposed to, because many loans they depend on valued insurance. And the whole system is the winner, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So for the recommendation is for me like asking every commercial bus driver to buy a newer, stronger vehicle, before carrying passengers. The bigger engine does not automatically make the driver good.
Right.
So the insurance companies must that. But the Nigerians, for insurance companies, the attitude is this way that, it's like rainy season we're in now.
Yeah.
You buy umbrella to hold. Because you don't know what it's going to rain.
It's going to rain, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but Nigerians wait for the rain to start.
Before they go start
looking for umbrella during the rain.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of people, clients, who lost a lot, who didn't insure, and they lost a lot fire. Well, people always believe that it can't happen to me.
Right.
It's not my portion. And that has been the major limiting factor. And so we hope that they'll push it to the end. NICOM will take it more seriously. Let's have serious players who have relied capital, and then the insurance industry will take its rightful place in the financial ecosystem, yes.
Thank you so much for that breakdown. Look, the CBN released its 2025 figures. I mean, it's 2025, so it's over a year and a half ago. Any thoughts? I mean, gross reserves are up, waves and means slightly. Why are you excelling? So what are your thoughts on those figures? Or just a general. Yeah.
No, let me just make some general comments.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm a chartered accountant.
Of course.
The first order.
And an engineer by training.
Oh, by the way, you don't know that other stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. I won't talk about it on air,
a learned man. That's basically what we have with us here. Yes, go ahead.
Two things out there. The financial statements represent, a call, a result, or the performance of the management of an enterprise. This time CBN, over a period of time. And also, when you're doing what we want to do now, which is financial statement analysis, analyzing performance, it is the story behind the figures that really matter to us, not just the figures in the absolute terms.
Right.
The figures don't speak to you. It's what led to those figures. And so, for me, it will be a remiss of me to look at the analysis of those figures without understanding the starting point.
Right.
It's impossible to fairly assess the journey. And I'm not in any way, I'm just being professional.
Right, of course.
In this respect.
Of course,
because you're going to be fair to the guys who are running Central Bank now and in assessing the performance of that 2025 account.
Yeah.
And, so the best way to analyze the account is to walk through what the Cardoso people, CBN, inherited when they took over in September 2023, which was close to the beginning of the year 2024, and they were complaining. You remember inflation was rising rapidly.
Yep.
26, food inflation was up there in the roof, even higher. exchange rate crisis was even the biggest challenge they had that time. And remember, multiple exchange rates, FX shortages, huge unmet demands of FX. Remember the airline challenges also. And there was also a wide gap between the official and the FX parallel market. And businesses struggled to obtain dollars. And then foreign investors couldn't repatriate their funds. Remember also that was the inherited weak investor confidence. Yep. That's another thing they had there. Foreign investors were largely sitting on sidelines because of the FX issues and policy inconsistency. Also, the Cardoso CBN inherited an FX reserve under pressure.
Yep.
Gross reserve then still existed, but I've heard them say several times that the net reserves was less than $3 billion for a nation of 200 million people. And so that was so rebuilding FX reserve adequacy. High interest rate environment was also a major issue, and then huge monetary policy overhang. Liquidity within the financial system was so much because of the the ways and means that they are printing money and fiscal pressures were so much, and of course, do recall declining confidence in Naira. If they pay a salary today, Rotus, I know that you rush immediately to go and change it to dollars. Everybody was holding, everybody had become an FX dealer. People knew the FX rates, rates more than anything. Many business prefer dollars in inventory and real estate. And of course, the FX market was distorted. And then credibility was a major issue. The issue was confidence. Can investors trust Nigerian policy then? Can businesses plan? Can the exchange rate stabilize? So the 2025 financial statements, Rotus, you hear me, I'm not yet going into rushing to figures, should be judged against those five key questions I want to put out there. Not just that did the CBN make profit. That's not what it is. It's basically, has inflation begun to moderate for me? Has confidence in the FX market improved? Has external reserves strengthened?
Right.
Has investor confidence returned? And has CBN become more transparent and credible? Which I give to them. Because even publishing this account is a major thing, major achievement for central bank to be done that. So these questions provide the framework under which the analysis of the financial statements will be done. And, so I don't judge it barely on the figures, but also on the this. Of course, there's so many angles to look at this. If we spend the whole day,
it's a 200-page document.
247 pages already. If we spend the whole day, we'll be able to finish it. Let me just speak on it. CBN is financially stronger from what I see, and but let me put out a warning. The warning I want to put out there is that analyzing CBN financial is not like analyzing Zenith or GTV
banks, right?
Or Access Bank or UBA Financial. They're completely different. A commercial bank is principally established to make profits, pay dividends, and grow shareholders' value. The CBN responsibilities include controlling inflation, managing external reserves, monitoring and exchange rate stability. So those are not issue currency.
Right.
So a profitable CBN, therefore, and I want to put that this, operating in an economy with uncontrolled inflation and unstable currency cannot automatically be described as successful. So if you look at the absolute terms of the profitability, meanwhile, there's high inflation, there's stability in the financial system, you can't say that central bank is very successful, So profit is relevant, of course, but price stability, reserve quality, monetary discipline, financial system stability are more important. Having said that, I know the day, one of my bosses say figures, figures, let's hear the figures, on total assets, of course, it grew up by 18%. Good. Bank-only assets actually by 18%. Group profit after tax grew by about 51%. Major. But bank-only profit fell. CBN owes an explanation on that. Why that happened. So I'm going to just pick on some issues because I don't have the whole day on that. Interest income went down by 2.84%. They have to let us know what happened. Gross external reserves, which is one major achievement.
It grew by 5.
About 13.8%. Net foreign reserve grew by about, was down by, it was up. So net foreign assets went down. Claims of government, amount payable, capital reserves, small. So the figure showed that CBN balance sheet grew materially. That's major. So we'll give them that. And there's no time to start going through asset class by asset class analysis. So, for me, therefore, I would say that, if you allow me, I will just say something like this, Rotus.
Yeah.
That
I guess general.
Yeah, I get a difficult operating environment.
Yeah.
Here in September 2023 that they came in. The 2025 financial systems suggest that there are progress in 5 areas: stronger external buffer, reduce fiscal dominance, claims on government, improve group profitability for CBN, which is good, data publication and transparency, I talked about already. I improve macroeconomic backdrops. Inflation has been controlled, interest rate has been controlled, results have grown up, But there are questions to be raised that CBN has to answer.
Yeah.
One of them includes the way and mean. I've seen some people write up some things about way and means. It's still foggy.
Not too specific.
Very foggy. Yeah. Very foggy. Because way and means is the public needs a complete reconciliation of that, not merely a statement that the balance reduce. So that's major for the system. And me here, I don't end my programs without saying who CBN financial statement help. Average Nigerians, how does it help?
Yeah.
So the 139 trillion CBN's balance sheet effect, how does it affect the price of rice or transport fare or rent? The important side is that the connection is indirect but important. Because a stronger and better managed CBN balance sheet can support greater Nigeria stability. And we know that everything in Nigeria is naira, dollar, naira, dollar
of everything.
You go even see dollar, naira, because we have a lot of important inflation too. But Nigeria will judge the CBN less by accounting profit, by more of the prices they pay for the things they buy, the value of the wages, cost of borrowing. Do they have jobs, stability of the naira, and the confidence in the banks, and that's very important, for us. So overall, I would say that the crisis is over.
Yeah.
We have some stability,
but there's still work to be done.
Growth.
Economic growth. That's what people can eat.
Economic growth. That's what people can eat.
Arise business analyst Chika Mbonu taking us through insurance and also the CBN 2025 accounts. Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.